Hello and welcome to our Minimals Devlog number 5. So today we're going to be debugging and creating an inventory for our power-ups. So our game is a 2D top-down style game which is made in Godot, if you guys don't already know. And the importance of our inventory-like power-up system basically gives the player a visual clue, like our inventory, of what power-ups they have and what they can use. And our debugging is obviously very important so our game actually works. So the main issue in terms of debugging is that the inventory wasn't showing the values properly. So when we were dropping stuff off to the checkout, as you can see on the screen, we're dropping off one apple and one orange, but it actually removes visually 2 oranges. So this obviously was not working the way I intended it to, and it impacted our gameplay severely because the player could be confused on what things they had still in their inventory, and we just want to ensure that it's concurrent, it's the same thing for both sides, both the back-end inventory and the front-end, what is shown to the player via these dots on the screen. So at first I wasn't actually sure what was wrong, but after putting in a few print statements I realized that at first my remove rightmost inventory dot function was working perfectly, but not how I needed it to work, because it was removing the dot no matter the color you put in the checkout. For instance, if you had an inventory of blue, yellow, blue and green dots, and you needed to drop off 2 blues, it would take those blues from your inventory, fine, but the animation would only happen to the last 2 dots, so the blue and green dots would disappear, even though you've removed the blue dots. So here's the debug code. I just had to change the if statement to check if we are removing a dot, and then we're also sending the dot color to our remove function. So that dot color sending to our function is basically going to tell the function which color to remove instead of just removing the rightmost dot. That used to be just -1 or the last index of it. Our major debugging is done. Another thing we had an issue with is the fact that on checkout completion, we had it so the checkout plays an animation where it basically just disappears, and then we were calling Q3. If you guys aren't familiar, Q3 in Godot just means we're removing it, but this wasn't actually doing it due to some weird stuff in the most recent version, which is Godot 4.1. It still doesn't really recognize scenes in a tile map. You guys probably don't know what that means, but it's just really annoying for me. And since our whole game is basically scenes in a tile map, that's how we get our grid, it's really just a recipe for disaster. So instead of actually diving deeper and coding something else to fix it, any good game developer will tell you it's a feature. So I actually implemented it as a feature. We're not removing it anymore, scratch that. It's too hard to figure out. This time we're just keeping it there. We'll wait for like 5 seconds or whatever, and then the items will respawn as if it just spawned in. So this actually was a blessing in disguise because it balances the gameplay as well. So this may sound like a bunch of copium, but it's actually true. By keeping the checkouts there, it has the same ratio of checkouts to shelves. Therefore, the gameplay loop will stay stable over the course of the time, and the player won't run into things like not knowing what to do because there's no objective anymore. So yeah, really glad that this happened, even though it took me like 2 hours of time trying to figure out the bloody thing. But anyway, let's not go into that. I'll get too frustrated. Anyways, next we just wanted to have a visual reference like the inventory, so the player knows how many power-ups they can use. So basically I just wanted to make an upgrade inventory, you could call it. So this was only for one-time upgrade uses, because upgrades such as increased speed, obviously you don't need to see, they will just increase the speed after you buy the upgrade straight away, and that will be for the rest of the game. But upgrades like boost, where you can use it at one time and it gives you a short speed boost for say 2 seconds, we can let the player choose when they want to use it. And then if I add more, I guess, one-time upgrades, we can add a inventory that allows the player to cycle through and choose which upgrade to use at which time. So this was pretty similar to our inventory, I just copied and pasted all the code from there, and then removed a bunch of it because there was stuff like animations, and then added a little bit more because I needed to change stuff. But yeah, also you can tab through the different one-time upgrades, but since I haven't added any, there's no tabbing through yet. But once I added some more, it will be pretty easy to implement. So that's the main features we're going to be implementing in our devlog. Other than that, it was a few small bug fixes, like there was a few visual glitches where the player was kind of glitching in and out of the checkouts if the checkout spawned right on top of it. That was a pretty simple fix, and also if the player was kind of getting stuck to some of the rigid bodies, it was getting stuck to some of the shelves and some of the checkouts. So that was a simple fix just in the node editor. Didn't even need to do any code for that. And that's going to be all for this video. So if you guys enjoyed, please consider liking the video or even subscribing. And if you want to let me know any ideas you guys have for the video, you should let me know down in the comments, because that's the easiest way you can reach me. I'll directly respond to your request or to your idea. And if your idea is good enough, you might even get a little Easter egg in my game as well. So that's pretty cool if my game eventually gets big or my channel eventually gets big. So I'm really working on it, working really hard on these videos. I put a lot of time and effort, so I really appreciate it if you guys were to show some love below. So yeah, thanks. That's going to be all for today. Get out now.